there wasn't kind of a easy news from the side of Bungie this past week, or at least in the second half of the past week, when Bungie's main page was updated with a blog post called "Passing the Torch," which is basically a message from Pete Parson and Justin Truman. So I'm gonna read it out the whole communication in a little speed up method. Message from Pete Parsons to the Bungie community. After more than 2 decades of helping build this incredible studio, establishing the Bungie Foundation, and growing inspiring community around our work, I decided to pass the torch. This journey has been the honor of a lifetime. I am deeply proud of the worlds we've built together and the million of players who call them home. And most of all, I'm privileged by the opportunity to work alongside the incredible minds at Bungie. When I asked to lead Bungie in 2015, my goal was to grow us into a studio capable of creating and sustaining iconic generation spawning entertainment. We've been through so much together. We launched a bold new chapter for Destiny, built an inevitable independent live ops organization capable of creating and publishing its own games, and joined the incredible family at Sony Interactive Entertainment. Today marks the right time for the beginning, or for a new beginning, I should say. The future of Bungie will be in the hands of a new generation of leaders. I am thrilled to announce that Justin Truman will be stepping into the leadership as Bungie new studio head. I worked alongside Justin for many years. His passion for our games, our teams, and our players is unmatched. As leader in engineering, production, and design, and most recently as the general manager for Destiny 2 and our chief development officer. He has been instrumental in bringing some of the most memorable moments in Bungie history to life. He lives and breathes in the studio, and I have full confidence he's the right person to lead Bungie forward. Thank you for being the best, most passionate community in gaming. It's been a privilege to serve you, and as for me, I'll be second star to the right and straight till morning. Likewise, a message from Justin Truman. In the 15 years I've been developer at Bungie, I've worn a lot of different hats. As an engineer, I wrote some code. I'm really proud of our original weapons ability and networking on Destiny 1. As a designer, I helped craft many of our Destiny 2 systems, including some of the endgame systems I got terribly wrong at Destiny 2 launch. As producer, I helped our team build our rollout Destiny's first seasons. More recently, I helped with our overall talent strategy as Chief Development Officer and have been helping the Marathon team as we build our next world. Across all these different roles, Bungie's purpose has stayed clear. We create worlds that inspire friendships. When we are at our best, we created those worlds alongside you, our community player community, and building something that matters, something that worth your time, your passion, and your investment in us, something that I learned hopefully over delivers. I've also been part of this effort at Bungie's where maybe we're not on our best. We stumble and realize through listening to our community that we had missed the mark. I know I personally learned a lot over the years, as have all of us here, from those conversations. I am committed to supporting and working alongside every member of the team here as we continue pouring our hearts and souls into these worlds. Worlds that we love, that we hope that being worth your time and your passion, because ultimately those worlds only exist and thrive with you in them. We are hard work right now doing that, both with Marathon and Destiny. We are currently heads down, but we have more to show in both of these worlds later this year. In closing, I know I can't speak for all Bungies when I say I appreciate your passion, your perspective at the time you spend with us. Per audacia ad astra, Justin Truman, studio head at Bungie. While sounding honest and upbeat, I think that it should be important to notice that we had to do a little backstory. When Sony Interactive Entertainment, the parent company of PlayStation, announced the purchasing of Bungie in January 2022, it was evident that Bungie will remain as an independent subsidiary, helping self-publishing and also helping PlayStation to make some roadmap and be like a special of an advisor in the live service strategy by the former CEO Jim Ryan. And of course, an independent subsidiary and free to self-publish and continue releasing games across the multiple platforms was part of the deal. the rationale beside the expertise of live services, it was also the creative freedom was a selling point, and basically that is why the reason that Bungie allowed itself to be bought again, because this is not the first time that Bungie is in independent. By the end of the 90s, early 2000s, and Halo was supposed to be the latest Macintosh game, Microsoft decided to buy the company to actually have Master Chief at the face of the original Xbox back in 2001. And the 2022 arrangement or the sale was pieces a win-win. Sony gained a live services powerhouse without stifling its culture, and Bungie gained the resource to expand to its IP. But now we are here 3 years later, and things have changed dramatically. Taking an advantage that Destiny 2 latest expansion for the past 3 years hasn't been like the deal break, mounting criticism for bugs, lack of content. And while Bungie ended the controversial content folding, mainly the Red War saga or the first saga of the Destiny 2 launch is still doing its impact in the game. And of course, you can add the controversial monetization decisions from the early years of Destiny 2, alongside with the revival of Marathon as its classic IP now revived as a new phase for live service extraction, has been delayed and dogged by a backlash over uh, basically a closed beta that has been kind of varying positives and negatives, and of course, the stolen artwork scandal. So along with that, we got layoff, and by 2024, the layoffs counts like 220 employees were let go by the company, alongside leadership departure with high-profile creative leaps, including Luke Smith, Mark Noseworthy, and Joe Blackburn has already exited Bungie, and PlayStation's executives are growing frustrated. That including investors for Sony that are claiming that Bungie needs to be online with more accountability. And with this, the once proud independent subsidiary status has been steadily eroded. And in the August 2025 earning reports conference with investor Lin Tao, the financial chief officer of Sony, has confirmed that Bungie's independence is getting lighter and that the studio is being integrated into PlayStation Studio more and more. And the thing is that passing the torch blog posts, uh, leadership changes doesn't mean that anything is new. Of course, this blog was kind of again, and like I said a few minutes ago, is kind of showcasing that Bungie is aware of the problems. Bungie is aware that not everything has been seamless and has gone through plan, but they're optimistic for the future. And I think that things have changed a lot since they were founded back in 1991. And yeah, it is noticeable about the autonomy shrinking. His flagship game, Destiny, is questionable in terms of if they're waiting to have Destiny to hold out until Marathon appears and Marathon doesn't be or doesn't end up being the game what is supposed to be and is under intense scrutiny, the future looks blurred at best. So I think the torch here isn't just creative leadership, it's the very identity of Bungie as a semi-independent force in the industry. And that torch is now being passed within a framework increasingly defined by Sony corporate's priority. And let's face it, Sony hasn't made any sense since a few years ago. And also with the whole drama that Sony might be greenlighting more games getting into Xbox, I think that that's kind of make a new layer of complications with it all this. So in more than an upbeat, I want to highlight, like I did in my blog, jesusgg.syc, about that this is the first time that Bungie has been in kind of a cycle of reinvention, and practically like the Phoenix Bird, where it burns out and reburners new. We got the once independent Mac focused developer. During the 90s through the 2000s, they created Marathon and co-developed the legendary game Myth, and followed by the Halo adventure from 2000 to 2007, and the regaining of independence in 2007 through 2010 to have the development of the game that now we know as Destiny. Of course, Microsoft only agreed to let Bungie go as a whole new independent studio, except that Halo stayed with Xbox Game Studio. And despite being a 10-year publishing deal with Activision, and evidently with the failure of the campaign due to the intense input from Activision and the failure of the initial year one of Destiny 2 in 2019, Bungie regained the publishing deal or the publishing right to self-publish its own game, Destiny 2, and 20 to 22 is the acquisition by Sony to convert it as an independent subsidiary of PlayStation, but nowadays it's gradually heading to PlayStation Studio full integration. And I agree when people say that each era has brought both creative highs and corporate compromises. Unfortunately, it is what it is in these days on gaming market and gaming corporations. The difference now is that Bungie's creative freedom, once non-negotiable, course, identity is no longer guaranteed, and I do think that this is one of the few concerns that we got here now with Bungie, I should say. And for Destiny fans, actually, the immediate concern is whether the integration will stabilize or further disrupt the game's future, as Sony kind of tends to be really imperative when they believe they have a good idea, which they don't really necessarily align with what the expectations for gamers. But one thing is certain, the Bungie that Sony bought in 2022 is not the Bungie we see today. And there's a lot of PlayStation influences in the decision. And some other PlayStation studio might be happy of what's going on with Bungie because, let's face it, I believe that for settlers, there are studio, I will dare to say Naughty Dog, for example, are not happy that they were forced to cancel the Last of Us multiplayer because they failed at an assessment that Bungie originally did in 2023. And maybe there's a kind of a mantra that Bungie's karma did pay its due. I will let you to actually think about that and let me know in the comments if you truly agree with that sentiment.